Well, as Colleen mentioned, November begins a month of thinking about and considering gratitude and thanksgiving. And so we begin today by remembering the saints, all of the people who have lived flawed and faith-filled lives throughout history and in our families and in our congregation. And we allow ourselves to grieve. And at the same time, we rejoice in the lives that they lived, the difference that they've made in our lives. And we recognize that as we continue to embody the thoughts and the values and the actions of our beloved saints and all the saints of the church. Now, All Saints' Day has a long history. As early as the 3rd to 4th century of the Christian church, there were feasts commemorating the martyrs that were held at different times of the year. Often these were held in May. And then in the 8th century, the Catholic churches in the British Isles began to celebrate All Saints' Day on November 1st to coincide with the Celtic festival known in Ireland and Scotland as Samhain. By the 9th century, Pope Gregory IV extended that date to the whole Catholic Church. It became official. And All Saints' Day was set aside for, well, those official saints, the ones who had done heroic acts or who had performed miracles. And All Souls' Day was set aside for, well, the rest of us, the ones who it was believed might still be in purgatory waiting to get to heaven. Now, having given up the idea of purgatory, Protestant denominations have assigned All Saints' Day on the first Sunday of November to remember the people of faith who've gone before us, to remember all those loved ones who have died in the past year. So we join with other churches throughout the world in taking this moment of remembrance. And it may be the changing light, the cooling temperatures, this time of gathering harvest food that sustains life through the dark winter ahead. All these come together at this time of year and have an effect of making us, well, feel a little more thoughtful and hopefully a little more grateful. So the early church passed on this tradition of All Saints' Day, allowing for the possibility that those who walked before us might also be especially close to us and in our hearts in these late autumn days. So today, together, we take time to remember all the people who have graced our lives with their presence. We give thanks. And together with the churches around the world, we set aside this day and we honor those whose lives have touched our lives. And we honor our grief. We celebrate their memories, and we celebrate God's unconditional grace. And Nadia Bolz-Weber points out that some grief is more complicated than others. Like it's difficult to grieve a parent that you loved, but who was also a terrible parent. And it's difficult to grieve someone who we still carry guilt for not maybe treating as well as we could have. It's unavoidable that at some point the fabric of our hearts will snag on the rough side of other people, and it can make grief a little swirly, maybe not as simple as we would like. And we know that the rougher parts of us will snag on the hearts of those we love, even when we don't mean to, and we may hurt them, and when we die, the grief they feel will be complicated too. Now, the people who have loved us, who we have loved, who have entered our lives, who we have known, change us. I came across this description recently that says, we become a reflection of the people that we care about. Those personality traits stick with us even if the people don't. They wrote, well, I make my ramen the way a friend taught me in the 11th grade. I eat sushi because a girl who, doesn't talk to me anymore made me try it. And I love Indian food because my best friend's parents ordered it for me before I even knew what I liked. There are movies I love because someone I loved them first. I am a mosaic of everyone I've ever loved, even if just for a moment. Can you think of some of the small ways that others have made a mark on your lives? We really are a mosaic of everyone we have ever loved. And the Apostle Paul reminds us that we are, in fact, surrounded somehow by this great cloud of witnesses. Witnesses to the meaning of life, witnesses to God's Spirit that has been moving in this world long before we arrived and will be continuing long after we are gone. The saints that we remember in their lifetimes, well, they shared with us their gifts, their wisdom, their experiences. And we are grateful today that in their sometimes flawed and halting ways, they passed on to us their love and their faith and their struggles along with their joys. And it's because of this light that others held out for us that we now have something to give. We have wisdom to share that has come through the ages. That's because that's how God's love works. That's how God's love is made known in this world. It is through people. It is through the people who cared for you as an infant and as a child and taught you. It's through the teachers who got up every morning much earlier than I ever want to, but they gave their all and their energy and their knowledge in the hopes that they might enrich your lives. And through the authors who wrote those books that gave you that aha moment, that feeling that someone has been through what I am going through. Someone understands. Now, the gospel passage that we read this morning, it's read often for All Saints' Day. It's known as the Beatitudes. But I think that Jesus was not trying to set this high bar that we needed to keep trying harder to live up to. I think that he was affirming what he saw in the eyes of the people who were around him. I think he was trying to say, I see you, and I know your heart, and I understand your experience. So these words that we read together remind us of who we really are. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for yours is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you who mourn, for you will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth, and blessed are you who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for you will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for you will receive mercy. Blessed are the peacemakers, for you will be called the children of God. These are not goals to attain. These are who we are and our hearts. And Christ tells us we are seen and we are known. Christ came into the world to share the love of God, and then generation to generation, people have passed that love along until it got to you. And now you have the privilege and the joy of passing that along to others each and every day in some way. And we know that some days can be harder than others. But however difficult it is to try to pass that joy along, this is truly where our joy is found. Because this is truly who we are. We are children of the living God, God who loves without restraint, without measure. Nadia again says, while we are here, we have access to God, our divine source. We experience this presence of God when we come to God in prayer and when we are forgiven by someone else, when we show mercy and when we love ourselves. When we are of service to others, and when we just sing, and when we admit our faults, and when we weep together. Saying, I'm no expert in the afterlife, but all I know is that when we die, we somehow return to our divine source, and because God is love, the love that we shared here on earth is the connective tissue that unites us eternally with everyone who has loved us. In some inexplicable way, we are all, every single one of us, held together in the heart of God. And so, again, on this All Saints Sunday, we join Christians around the world, gathering to celebrate the lives of those saints who've gone before us, giving thanks for the saints who are still in our lives, and our chance to continue to share that love with others. Today, as we remember those who blessed us, those who struggled with us, those who have formed the mosaic of our lives, we find ourselves again encouraged to live into this promise of God, connecting the past and the present and the future. And we celebrate that promise of continuity and connection in the sharing of the Lord's Supper. So we will do that together. Let us prepare our hearts to share this meal in prayer.